Surviving the Survivor, we bring you the best guests in all of true crime. Don't forget to subscribe and smash that like button. Here's your host, Emmy Award-winning broadcaster, Joel Waldman.
Welcome to Surviving the Survivor, the podcast that brings you the best guests in all of true crime. And surprise, I'm not Joel Waldman. I am the COE, also known as Ileana. And if you don't know me, I'm Joel's wife. I'm also a former journalist, and I usually work here behind the scenes at STS. But today, because Joel is driving up to Tallahassee, I am taking over and filling in. So welcome to everyone. If you're new here, please remember to subscribe, hit the like button, and please leave your comments and questions for us, as this is a live stream and we will be taking some questions for you. A big shout out to Gigi for being here. If you don't know Gigi, she is from Pretty Lies and Alibis. She's done a phenomenal job covering so many stories. I think one of Gigi's strengths is that she's really good at the deep dives and getting a lot of details and information about cases that not a lot of people can. She also is a freelance journalist that travels all over the US to cover various cases. So welcome, Gigi.
Good to see you.
And we do have Lauren from Hidden True Crime coming. She will be hopping on in just a few minutes. She just texted us to tell us that she's running late. So the trio will be reunited any minute now. But in the meantime, until Lauren gets here, Gigi and I are going to get started. And I know that we've been doing a lot of Donna Adelson coverage. Gigi also covers that story. But today we are taking a break from Donna Adelson. But before we get started, I do just want to share this with you guys. Just because Donna Adelson does begin tomorrow, it is jury selection. Oh, people are saying my sound is cutting in and out. Gigi, are you hearing that?
Not on my end, but
okay. If you guys are having a hard time hearing me, then let me know. If it's on your end, maybe try refreshing. If some of the mods can let me know what my sound is like, that would be great. But in the meantime, I do want to just point this out here for you guys. This is the Donna Adelson trial coverage that we're going to do. We are going to have gavel coverage on this channel, STS. I know some of you guys are watching this right now on the Best Trials channel. I'm going to explain to you guys how to find our trial coverage, but don't worry, we will give you all of the options on where to watch the trial. We're also going to have 4 different shows. So in the mornings, we'll have a live stream of the court session. Then we'll have a lunch live. Then we'll have the live stream of the afternoon court session. And then at night, we are going to be doing our best guess analysis shows. So there is going to be a lot of coverage. Whatever you missed, don't worry, you can catch up. You can watch the next show. You can always watch it on replay. Gigi also covers the show. So you can also watch it on Pretty Lies and Alibis. We love to support each other. Gigi and Lauren, who's not here yet, are both amazing women. They're amazing moms. And while they're great on air, they're even better people behind the scenes and off camera. So I just want to thank Gigi and Lauren again for being here and for taking the time to speak with us. All right, so let's get started here, Gigi. I'm not quite sure how intensive you've gone into this case of Kouri Richins. But for those who don't know Kouri Richins, it's a very fascinating case. I'm actually going to pull up a photo here of Kouri. I know that we have covered it here on our channel. Joel has covered it with both Sky Lazaro, the attorney that once represented Kouri, as well as attorneys representing the family, the victim of Eric Richins, who is Kouri's husband, who obviously died. But Gigi, can you give us like a 2-minute recap of what happened?
yeah, well, it's convoluted, but ultimately, Kouri's accused of poisoning Eric with fentanyl, and she tried, ironically, on Valentine's Day and failed. She got him a deli sandwich. He ate it, got sick. Now, in the meantime, what we have found out is that there was a middle person who was getting the fentanyl for Kouri through people she knew. She's cooperating with authorities, will testify at this trial. But unfortunately, the second go around, Kouri was allegedly, and I say that I don't want to get sued, successful in killing Eric. And for a while, she wasn't arrested and went on to write a children's book on grief about losing their father. She actually went on some local news stations there in Utah to promote the book, and then bam, got arrested for his murder. It's been crazy. You know, she was charged with assaulting Eric's sister who was there. Eric kind of had a feeling something was going on. And in fact, on the Valentine's Day attempt, he told a friend, I think my wife's trying to poison me. even before that, I mean, we could take an hour, but Kouri flipped houses. And really, to make a long story short, she was so deep in debt with these hard money lenders. I mean, her payments were sometimes in the thousands per day. And there was this huge mansion that she wanted to flip. Her husband was against it. She was taking out life insurance policies on Eric that he didn't know about. Just, I mean, she was so in over her head, which I think lends to a lot of the motive in this case, is how far in debt she was. And I mean, there was no way out. There was no way out for her financially. And so she got arrested, and it wasn't until after Eric's death that she found out he put everything in a trust that was controlled by his sister and not Kouri. And so that resulted in Kouri had called somebody to open up the safe. The sister saw it, told her to stop. This isn't your house. I think she punches the sister. It's just been crazy, but she just had a preliminary hearing a few weeks ago. Of course, she was bound over for trial. Got new lawyers, by the way. She had a really great attorney, Sky Lazaro, who I love. Thought she was fantastic, but now she has a new legal team. And so now we're waiting for trial.
All right. Gigi said everything. We're
I'm
done.
sorry.
No, no, no. Well, no, that was a great recap. And the important part, I think, about this story and many of the cases that we're seeing here on our channel and yours as well, Gigi, is that there are two big themes that are important when you're watching these cases. One is follow the money. There's always a money trail. And two is the digital forensics. In so many of these cases, like in the Donna Adelson trial that we've been covering, it's interesting, it's fascinating, and it's really quite shocking that all of these people, if allegedly, that all of these people are doing all of these things and yet leaving these trails. And there's so much evidence. There's so much digital forensic evidence, and there are so many clues. And when you follow the financial trail, I know that we were speaking yesterday about this. It's hard to excuse that, right? Especially because in this case, and I could be wrong, you're the expert, Gigi, so please correct me if I'm wrong. But I think that Kouri Richins didn't know that her husband had switched his insurance policy to his sister. So this whole time she's banking on it. She thinks she's getting X amount of millions of dollars. And lo and behold, all of this happens. And now she gets nothing. So I do think that's very interesting. I also just want to reference the page here in front of you that you're looking at. That is Kouri Richins on the left there in the small square. And again, that's Kouri Richins with her husband, Eric Richins, who was the person who was murdered, and their 3 little kids. I want to put an emphasis on the fact that we're also talking about a wife and a mom. And Gigi, I know that we're both moms, and so many people in the chat are as well. That's a whole other element that really throws me for a loop when we're seeing these stories, especially this one. I have 3 kids. I think you have 3 kids as well.
I do.
Yeah. I'm like, I cannot imagine what it would take to be put in a position, or to put myself in a position where now I'm not only hurting loved ones, but I'm hurting my own children, because obviously your kids will forever be affected. And now they don't have a dad, and they may not have a mom. So it's very interesting how all of this plays out. And I find it extra fascinating when it's a woman that's on trial, especially a mother.
Yeah, I agree. And one thing I forgot to include in my little crazy summary is she had a boyfriend, and in fact had texted him on Valentine's Day that something like it would be so much easier if he weren't around, meaning her husband, so there's that motive as well. But it is crazy. And you think about like the Adelson case. I mean, they did all of this in the name of the boys to have them in Miami. And, it's almost like Donna didn't compute that these boys would grow up and they wouldn't need the 24/7 care. She actually referenced that on the hot mic call. But you look at the burdens that these families put on these kids in taking away their fathers, especially in the Adelson case where it was done for these boys, or that's what they say. This is something these boys will have to live with for the rest of their life. And Kouri and Eric's boys, he was very involved in their lives. I've heard about him just being an amazing person who would pay for like kids that couldn't afford sporting, like the equipment to play football or soccer or whatever. He would anonymously pay this stuff off just a good guy that just married crazy, unfortunately. And it always blows my mind. These people don't watch Dateline, obviously, because they always can get these text messages and web searches back. It's like, I mean, these people don't learn, or they're just so cocky that they think they'll get away with it. It's like that's what always blows my mind, because these days, pretty much every case involves digital forensics in some way. Comes back to bite you. You delete something, not always deleted. And I think that's going to be big in Donna's case because, she's a little bit older, doesn't quite understand how phones work. And the same with Kouri Richins. There was a lot of stuff deleted that they were able to recover that's very damning for her.
Well, that's what surprises me is that, yeah, they don't realize. I mean, just because you delete it on your phone doesn't mean it's deleted. And that's the whole thing. Even years ago, they were saying whatever you put on the internet stays there, whatever has some kind of digital evidence. I mean, that's there for forever. So much so that even when I'm arguing with my husband, who many of you know, Joel, if I want to say something, I never text it. I'm like, you know what? I'm calling it. I don't want digital forensics. I don't want any evidence. But yeah, no, I'm always so incredibly surprised. And speaking of that, I do want to pull this up. Oh, wait, sorry. Give me 1 minute. I just realized I never referenced this, and this is very important. This is actually why we're discussing the case. So this is Eric Richins here. Obviously there on the right, on the bottom, and then here with his family. And we were talking about Kouri and how, it's hard to grasp that anyone would do this. But the weird part is that when you look at that family photo, I was actually looking at a lot of photos last night, just Googling different images. And what surprises me is all of these people seem seemingly normal when you look at their Instagram, when you look at their Facebook. And I was just reflecting on social media and just thinking, wow, it is scary because we do paint this picture of this happy, perfect family. And you don't know these people. You don't know what's happening. And then you find these stories out and you're like, wow, like by their Instagram, you would never know. So I just found that to be very interesting.
Yeah, well, I think we all do that. We all put out what we want the world to see and perceive when, in reality, it's probably very different. But, I mean, look, I have friends who air all their dirty laundry on Facebook, and I'm just like, really? But it doesn't mean I don't sit there and read through it for 20 minutes either. So it's a little entertaining. But yeah, I mean, to look on the outside, this just seems like, your average successful family, because Eric did have a very successful business on his own with another partner. And, Kouri just had these dreams of being this multimillionaire through flipping houses, and it backfired in such a bad way.
Yeah, no, it's pretty wild. And it's interesting. Even when you watch those shows, like I forget what show it was, but it was like a Dateline type greed show. I'm always watching these shows thinking, gosh, like these people have so much. Like, when is enough enough,
Right.
All right. So
Yeah,
I do
because
want to
they
pop
weren't
this up.
hurting. I mean, that's the thing is Eric's business was very, very successful. It's not like they were, living paycheck to paycheck like probably the majority of Americans. I mean, a very comfortable life, very nice house, but she wanted to go out and make her own way and just made some really terrible financial decisions at every turn and I think he really started to pick up on the fact that she had gotten herself in a mess. And that's why he put his foot down about that mansion that was unfinished, that was gonna require, so much money to even finish and flip, and I think it sold, and for what she bought it for, it sold for less unfinished, or
Yeah.
when it was finished, than what she ended up and did. I think it was, like, the day after he died, she signed the papers on that mansion, so it's just, it's crazy.
No, it really is. And when you look at this, so another thing, Kouri Richins had a burner phone. Whenever you have a burner phone, that's probably a sign that you are doing something that you should not be doing. So these are some of the messages that were analyzed in a digital forensic analysis and search. And I just want to read these out loud to you. I know that all of the friends here on STS Nation and all of the alibiers and all of the gems who are joining us probably know this because you guys all know all of these cases so well. But I was really taken aback at how obvious these searches were. So the first one says, Women, Utah prison. The second one says, can cops uncover deleted messages iPhone? The answer, everyone, is yes, they can. The next search says, if someone is poisoned, what does it go down on the death certificate as? The next one says, how long does life insurance companies taken to pay? And then the final one is, what is a lethal dose of fentanyl? So obviously very clear messages. And these were found on that burner phone that belonged to her. So Gigi, as you're looking at these and realizing, how obvious these messages are, I mean, there's no code here. It is what it is. What are you thinking? And is there any way to work around this?
Well, I mean, they'll try to work around it, but it's pretty damning. I think there was also a search for luxury prisons in America. I don't think I've ever heard of one of those.
Oh, wow. Luxury.
But yeah, I mean, look, it's just so blatant. And I mean, I think she was narcissistic enough to think that this just wouldn't come back to bite her. But I mean, good grief. She did everything but Google, I killed my husband. What do I do now? I mean, it's just these searches are so damning. It's going to be really, really hard to explain these away. Hey,
Yeah, no,
Lauren.
exactly. Hey, welcome, Lauren.
Thanks, guys. Hello.
Thank you for joining us, everyone. If you don't know, this is Lauren from Hidden True Crime. And we thank her for being on here. I welcomed you earlier, but you weren't here. So welcome again, and thank you. So we just got started not too long ago, and we were just talking about how damning these search results are from Kouri's burner phone. And the fact that she had a burner phone to begin with is just like a very concerning sign that she was obviously up to no good.
Right. And these Google searches, my goodness. I know, what did we do before Google searches when people like went to libraries and looked things up? Now we know everything they're doing. And she watched crime documentaries too. I mean, let's say she's innocent until proven guilty, right? Like, okay. I mean, and we know that she watched crime documentaries because she texted her significant other that wasn't her husband, I just want to watch a murder documentary with you. And she still didn't know that she shouldn't be Googling these things on a burner phone, like innocent or guilty, like not a good look. Sorry. Yeah. And I'm sorry. I don't know what you guys have covered, but that's what I'm thinking. That's what I thought when I first saw these. My thoughts.
But Lauren, didn't she get some payout from insurance? I mean, I think she did get some money. Do you know?
Yeah. I mean, there was a big fight over it. She did end up, I believe, getting some, yes, but now, everything's pending because she's been charged with murder.
Right.
But yes, there was a big argument over that because she had signed a prenup, and he had changed his life insurance at work, his beneficiary, and he had put it into his trust that, that everything of mine, if something happens to me, goes into this trust, and this trust is protected by the prenup. But she was opening life insurance policies without him knowing, in his name. So
and even tried to change that life insurance policy through the business into her name. She did that a couple of times, like she flip-flopped or something.
Correct. So she put Cody, his business partner, she went in and had Cody's beneficiary go to her, which is really weird. And I don't know if that was a mistake on her part, or if she thought, yeah, I'm going to have Cody go to me, or she thought she was changing her husband's, but they caught that right away and fixed things. And it was shocking.
And Lauren, what about, Anja here has a question. Did Kouri take life insurance out on the children? I heard she did. Do you know
if she did that, she could have. I only know what I know. I know that she was taking out several policies. You know what? Yes, I think she did. You're right. Now that you said that, yes, wow. I believe that she did do that. But I do know more certain that she took out numerous life insurance policies on Eric.
Yeah, my friend Laura, who's the know-all on this case, just texted me. She had almost $2 million in secret policies on Eric.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, I didn't even realize you could take multiple life insurances out on a single person.
Without them knowing,
it's not
too,
that
which is
easy
bizarre.
to take out. Yeah.
Like even Tammy Dable had to go sign. Well, I guess it was her life insurance policy, but it's surprising that he wasn't able to find that out,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she was doing a lot of stuff. Like when she was applying for these loans, she was getting like letterhead that she was forging and bank statements it's crazy. I mean, that girl was so underwater financially. It's just, to me, that's the biggest motive of all this.
Well, yeah,
And
sex and
Julia
money.
Nielsen here is asking, what sentence is Kouri facing if convicted? I just want to pull this up for those that don't know. She is facing 11 charges: attempted murder, multiple counts of forgery, intent to distribute a controlled substance, mortgage fraud, and then, as we were just discussing, insurance fraud as well. She pleaded not guilty to all of those, and her trial is scheduled for April 28th, 2025, which happens to be my sister's birthday.
As well
So,
as first degree murder, though, too. Do we not
yeah,
have
yeah,
that
yeah,
there?
yes,
Yeah,
and
as
first
well
degree
as
murder.
that. And the attempted murder, forgive me if you already covered that, but that was from the Valentine's Day sandwich incident. Did you cover
Yeah,
it?
we talked about that
Okay.
briefly.
I'm just
Yeah.
gonna lean back and listen. Okay.
No, no, no,
No.
and
We didn't talk about the attempted murder charges for that. It kind of slipped my mind, but yeah, she did. So that's a newer charge, I think, right?
It's a newer charge, definitely being argued by the defense for good reason because, it's added, but there is, some interesting evidence uh, with the with what she texted the dealer. So Carmen, alleged dealer. So on Valentine's Day before Eric died, he had a sandwich in his seat car or his car seat, and a nice little note from Kouri. And allegedly, his side of it is that he broke out in hives and was severely sick after he ate that sandwich. And Kouri argues that that's not necessarily the case. Kouri argues that no, he wasn't that sick, and he went to like a soccer practice of his son's later that night. According to Eric, he was deathly ill and so concerned that he said to somebody like, "Look, if something happens to me, I think my wife's trying to poison me." But I think the most damning part of that attempted murder charge is the fact that there was a text from Kouri to Carmen. Carmen is the alleged drug dealer that said, "Can you get a higher dose of fentanyl? The last dose was too low."
Yeah, it was like something stronger or something like that. And then did she ask for the Michael Jackson stuff?
Correct.
Yeah, something like that. So I mean, that kind of goes back to it. I mean, you don't necessarily have to have it's kind of common sense. The jury will be able to use that statement in relation to the text messages we have where she's like, "Geez, is it really that bad?" Where he went and laid down and things. And then you have this, "I need something stronger." That's where the jury can use their noggin and say, "Well, he died of fentanyl poison." You're going to have this lady testify. I was the middle woman. I mean, she's cooperating with authorities and for good reason. She was on like drug probation or something. They did a search warrant at her house, found stuff, and then she really started cooperating. So, man, it's going to be an interesting trial to watch, though. I'm just curious, does Kouri take the stand and all that jazz? I always love it when defendants. I'm waiting to see if Donna Adelson does, y'all. I give my right arm to see it.
I'm pretty sure Donna will. I'm not sure
Yeah.
whether Kouri will or not. But what's interesting is that she was already on camera so many times. So I actually have some sound. I am going to pull it up for you guys right now, and we can listen to it. I think it's like maybe 30 seconds. And it's from a Utah morning show with Saray Chin, who I used to work with in DC. And
This is my old
was
station.
Oh,
This is
is
my old
it?
station.
Oh,
Yeah.
Lauren, I didn't
worked for
realize.
them.
It's funny. I was
Yeah.
going to ask you, but then I was like, oh no, because I know now you're in Vegas. So I associate you with Vegas, not Utah. That's so funny. So did you know Saray?
Yes, she was my
Oh,
coworker.
oh, very cool. So I'm going to play the sound right now. But even if she doesn't take the stand, I wonder if they'll bring all of this in, because the sound that we're about to watch is just from a year after Eric was killed. And let's see how she reacts to it. I'm going to put it up right now.
My husband passed away unexpectedly last year. So it's March 4th was a 1-year anniversary for us. And he was 39. It completely took us all by shock. And we have 3 little boys, 10, 9, and 6. And, my kids and I kind of wrote this book on the different emotions and grieving processes that we've experienced last year, and hoping that it can kind of help other kids.
So there you have it. She was very nonchalant. I'm obviously not a body language expert or a psychologist in any way, but just as a mom who's trying to imagine what I would be like a year after my husband suddenly died and I had 3 little kids, which actually my kids are now her kids' age. So I feel like I can really relate to what my kids' emotions would be like and what mine would be like. And she's just so disconnected from it all.
Yeah. And I think you do that. I think it's like clearly you have to be disconnected from your spouse if you're going to poison them intentionally. I mean, I'm lucky I didn't poison my husband just by like cooking him a meal. I suck at cooking, but like when you're knowingly going out and getting fentanyl and putting it in there, I think you have to be absolutely 100% disconnected because otherwise you couldn't do it. Look what you've been through together. You've made 3 children. Good times, bad times. Clearly for her, there was just other motives, and I think financial, and the boyfriend who I believe was a maintenance worker for her. I saw his photo. And yeah, so she's just odd as a god. And random thing, I have the same jacket she does on in that video. Just but yeah, I'm gonna have to check out of here in about 3 minutes. I have to take Grammy to get an echocardiogram. So when you guys see me, like I didn't, the rapture didn't happen and I didn't go off camera. I gotta take Grammy to the doctor.
Gigi, I know you have to go. So if there's anything else you want to say, any thoughts, anything that you're looking forward to in this trial or anything that surprised you, and then we'll let you go take care of
Yeah,
it.
I think for me, somebody asked about the children. Eric's family has the children, and as far as I know, they're doing as well as they can. Very loving family, Eric's family, just dedicated to those boys and giving them some normalcy. But you have to think about that losing their dad and then their mom. And I think some of the kids are old enough to kind of understand where she is. What I'm most looking forward to, honestly, is just justice for Eric, because for me, there's not many cases where I'll say in the beginning, like, this is a slam dunk, like it's going to be a guilty verdict. Juries are unpredictable, but I mean, this is kind of one of those clear as day for me personally. And just her narcissism and her attitude and just everything about it, you really want to see somebody like her be held accountable because Eric was such a good guy. He was a great involved dad. He was good to the community. Like I said, did things just unannounced without the fanfare, just doing it for the right reasons. And he was just taken way too soon. And I mean, for no reason other than her own selfishness. And so I'm just looking forward to justice. But before that, we got Donna Adelson, and I'm ready for that one too. So I know you guys are streaming, I'm streaming. And then if you guys can't watch, by the way, I'm doing a recap in an hour or less every night of the day's testimony. So if you can't watch, come check it out and I'll let you know what you missed. But Lauren, good to see you, friend. I need to see you in person soon.
Yeah, good to see you too, Gigi.
Yeah, and thank you so much, COE, for inviting me on. Love all y'all, but I'm gonna go take care of the 90-year-old queen of the family.
Yes, please do.
All
Please
right,
do.
we'll
And keep
see you
me
guys
updated.
soon.
All right.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Going back to that what you just brought up with Saray, our friend, Saray, she, my husband is a psychologist and a body language expert, and we assessed that entire video. And one thing he pointed out is there is a moment when she states, "We are learning how to grieve." And I thought that moment to my husband was a really big tell, as he would say, learning how to grieve, almost like we're not learning how to get by without him. We're learning how to grieve. And it was a very fascinating interview for us all to look back on. That's essentially why this case made the news, I think, so quickly. I have to say, I disagree a little bit with Gigi that this is a slam dunk case. I actually think that the defense has some solid arguments. And I was at the 3-day or the 2-day, excuse me. We thought it was going to be 3-day, but it was a 2-day preliminary hearing in Park City, Utah, in Summit County. And a couple of the solid, of course, we went forward. The judge ruled that they have enough evidence to go forward with all of the charges. But one thing that the defense, I think, has is the fact that there were no fentanyl pills ever found. They weren't able to get them. So they only have the word of course, the Google searches as well as the text, but they have the word of Carmen. Carmen is an incredibly strong witness. She is the one that is saying that absolutely, she was supplying these drugs. But we also have to remember again that she has a deal as well. And it's pretty much a get out of a jail free card for Carmen, who could also spend life behind bars if she didn't testify. Now, look, I think there's more evidence. I agree with the judge's decision. There's plenty of evidence for the charges to go forward, but I do think that the defense does have some solid arguments, I want to say.
And Lauren, I'm just going to read this super chat here. It says, my husband passed away 20 years ago, and I still can't talk about it so casually. I think
Exactly.
that's what those of us who are at home, we're obviously not in the courtroom. We're not always looking at all of the hard evidence. I mean, I know some of you guys are, because you guys are super hardcore and amazing. But but for some of us who are casually reading these stories and reading the articles and watching, what really just hits home for me is that, yeah, I'm watching these interviews, that she did. And like Kathy's comment, like she doesn't seem affected. She doesn't seem to be grieving. She is learning to grieve. But if you are mourning someone, then you're grieving. You don't have to learn how to do it. You're feeling it. You're feeling probably so many different emotions all the time, if not for yourself, for your children, for both of you, for your family, I can't even imagine. And quite frankly, I don't want to imagine what that would be like. But it's interesting to think that this could come down to whether or not that is a strong enough witness, because obviously, ultimately, the evidence is what will play a huge factor in whether or not they can find her guilty.
Correct. And that interview will likely not even be part of the discovery or evidence, right? So I think that a lot of us in this community that are looking at this see it as a slam dunk case. And I agree with Kathy. Kathy, you're so right. Like, I can't imagine after my husband passing away, going on a talk show to promote a children's book I wrote, let alone what she did allegedly, which is throw a party to celebrate the closing of this massive mansion she had purchased, this investment mansion she had purchased just like a day or two after his death. And when it goes back to that interview too, I want to point out, like, I could see myself writing a book about grief for my children or child, but to go and promote it is a whole other thing. And I don't know if you've read the book, but the book is not, I mean, look, I'm going to be critical because it's Kouri Richins, but the book, in my opinion, isn't that great. It's not a book that I would share with my child. How about that for grief? I actually think it in my opinion, and in my husband's opinion, who is the psychologist, it skirts around the issue. It says, oh, don't worry, your dad's still here. He's here with you, cheering you on when you, like, look at that picture, that illustration. He's here cheering you on when you're doing soccer. Don't worry about it. And he's just everywhere you are. He's still here. He's still here. Don't you worry about it. And actually, no, that's not grieving. That's actually an avoidance of grief. That's actually saying, don't cry. He's right here. I got you, No, he's not there. And again, just showing up on that talk show, which is, you and I know this, it's very oftentimes paid sponsorships on morning shows, to show up there. And I don't know her situation with the show, but to show up there promoting this book is very telling. Very.
No, it definitely is. And I did read the book. I didn't buy the book because I didn't want to support it, but I read it online because someone just posted it. So it is there. And
Thank you to that someone. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I did read it. This is a dedication. It says, dedicated to my amazing husband and a wonderful father. And Lauren is absolutely right. And so is Dr. John, her husband. I defer to him for all psychological analysis of anything and everything. But it's true. Like, they never really discussed the actual death. They just kept saying, when you're sad at school, your dad's in the hallway with you, but he's not. He's not here.
He's not.
He's not here for anything. He'll never be here for anything. I mean, obviously, if you are experiencing loss, and even with my grandfather, yes, I want to believe that he's with me through X, Y, and Z. But if this is a very real experience for them, then you're right. There is no truth. There's no meat to the story. It's just a lot of fluff. And looking back, it does feel like it was a PR stunt. And I watched the full interview a few times last night, and again, there's no emotion. To me, that was very weird. She doesn't even try to fake it. She's just very honest about, doing it for her kids. That was her attitude. She's like, I'm doing it for the kids. So I want to play this quickly. This is another piece of that interview. And then I'm going to start to star questions. I'm really sorry. I completely forgot to pull up comments, chats, questions. So I'll do that, but give me 1 minute to pull this up.
And it's only been a year. How did you process and say you go from processing death to I need to write a book and help others?
You know, I just watched the struggle that my kids were going through. And I actually, I went on Amazon and Barnes and Noble and trying to find something that we could use to cope at nights. Nights are the hardest, it seems like, for everybody when, dealing with anything. But I just wanted some story to read to my kids at night. And I just could not find anything. I couldn't find anything that really, suited them or helped them find comfort.
Sorry, I cut off at comfort. But again, she started off saying she needed something for her kids because they were having a hard time. So to me, again, as the grieving wife, that
she's
would
not
be
grieving.
weird. Yeah, there's no grief there.
That's exactly what I caught in that. Thank you. That's exactly what I caught. She's needing something for her kids to grieve, not our family, not me. I'm just sad, just her children. In other words, like something to like pacify them because we need to move forward.
Yeah. So obviously, Lauren, you know this case really well. You were there in person. Is there anything that worries you about the case in terms of evidence aside from the witness? Like, is there any kind of hard evidence that you think will come into play in terms of this case not being as strong as you think it is, aside from the fentanyl not physically being found?
I think what you just said, the fentanyl is my biggest worry. I mean, that's right there. The fentanyl was not found. Again, cases are charged all the time without things being found. She clearly got rid of it. But that to me is the biggest thing, to say there was an exchange of drugs and to not have the drugs is not great. It definitely, right. Look, all that has to happen is for the jury to have doubt. And again, it's the A plus B. It's there's no fentanyl found. Fentanyl. People always make fun of how I say that. I guess I say it with like a Utah accent. Forgive me. I'm like insecure. There's no drugs that have been found. And you have a drug dealer who's claiming this happened. Absolutely, this happened, but it's her get out of jail free card. I think also the attempted murder is going to be very difficult because I actually think the defense has a great argument that is there really enough evidence for this? The evidence for the attempted murder is the fact that she's also being charged with the murder. So again, A plus B equals surely this was an attempted murder. But if all the other charges weren't there, would there be an attempted murder charge? I think the attempted murder charge would be an easier charge to have happen after she's convicted of other charges, right? Like I think without the conviction of the other charges, it makes it a little bit more difficult. So those are my biggest concerns. And then of course, it's a he said, she said debate where Kouri's saying, no, Eric was in with all of these, business deals I was doing. He wanted to buy this house. We were celebrating this house, where other people are saying, no, he wanted nothing to do with this big investment property in Midway. And he was scared and it was so concerning. So those, I think a lot of the he said, she said are going to be problematic. Of course, I think one thing that's going to help, and I know we all say this is about money, but it was also about sex, good old American crime, right? Sex and money, that she had a significant other that she wanted
and
to
he did too, right? Or am I?
Allegedly,
Or is that, okay.
I'm not going to delve into that one as much.
Okay.
Yeah, possibly. But if he did, I mean, okay, how about this? That right there is what I think the defense is going to use, right? But even
still, I mean, yeah, it's funny because I see it as the opposite. If anything, that would, for me, that's more motive for her.
True.
Like I feel like that would just like fuel her fire.
Yeah. Right. That would just make her even more angry, right? It's there's certainly motives, like things that are great for the prosecution. Motive. I mean, right? Follow the money. Is that what people say? Follow money. This has got plenty of money to follow. And then you throw in a romantic relationship that's a secret. Bingo. So you've got the motive solid as can be. But
And what
then,
about family, Lauren? I know some people, I'm going to pull this up here from Crafty Chris. Lauren, what do you think of Kouri mom's potential involvement? Which I know that's like a whole other
oh no, let's talk
story,
about it.
but yeah, but I'm like, everything's like coming together and now these stories are enmeshed. Then does what the
It's
mom
wild.
did matter?
Yeah, you wonder about the history now. And I want to say this. So we're going to delve into Kouri's mom. What's interesting about being there is the courtroom is completely full, and it's a large courtroom. Same courtroom. Sorry, random fact that the Gwyneth Paltrow ski case
Interesting.
was tried, and it's mostly family, and not just the Richins family, but also the Darden family, Kouri's mother, Kouri's siblings, Kouri's extended family. She also has a lot of support. You don't always see that as much, right? Like people going like, "Oh, nothing to see
Yeah.
here. I'm going to, you know what?" Lori Vallow's family wasn't lined up in the courtroom, right? A lot of times with the defendant, you don't see that. So her family is massive supporters standing by her, including 2 friends of hers that are there. They ended up having to leave the courtroom because they're going to be witness, but she has people standing by her. So, but getting into this suspicion of Kouri's mother, she was there. She was called right away. So that evening, after Kouri discovers Eric dead and she calls 911, she calls her mother, and her mother is there helping her. I mean, helping, I don't know what she's doing there, but she's a big part of this initial probable cause. Okay. So let's just throw that in there. What is she doing there? I mean, I get it. It's your mother, but at the same time, she needs her I don't know. So there's that whole thing. So Kouri's mother had a partner, a female partner that moved from a different state, I've actually looked at the autopsy. I've looked at the obituary for his cousin, and I'm forgive me, I can't think of her name right now. Someone has it in comments. The mother's partner that passed away. The mother's partner suffered, it is true, with addiction, but was clean, and they were living together, and she died unexpectedly at a young age. And again, she didn't have a lot of family support. The obituary is very short, and her family was in a different state. So that doesn't help either. But it was simply she succumbed to addiction and an overdose. And of course, certainly, we're all going to be looking at that and wondering, just like we did with Joe Ryan in the Lori Vallow case, right? When somebody's all of a sudden accused of something heinous and horrible, we're like, well, what in the past could possibly have been a sign, or what else is going on? And Kouri's mother's partner's death is certainly a major red flag and something that is very compelling. Enough so that it has been brought up, in court docs and in discovery.
And do we think
Yeah.
that will play a role in the trial?
I think it could possibly play a role in some of the charges because it has now worked its way into some court documents. I don't know how they would use that because unless there's a convicted charge, right? It's kind of hard. It's super hearsay. Like for example, let's use the Joe Ryan case again for Lori Vallow. Joe Ryan, many of us suspect that Joe Ryan met an untimely death, although it was deemed a heart attack, and multiple times police have said nothing to see here and they have closed the case. But we're all going to wonder, Joe Ryan's death couldn't be used in Lori Vallow's case, but I don't know. I don't know if they're going to be able to pull that off and be able to use that in some of these charges. It certainly, I mean, her mother was there at the time of this murder. So if they're going to try to implicate her, perhaps it comes into play.
Well, and what's interesting, and you mentioned it. Oh, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, sorry. What's interesting, and you mentioned it, is that her family is showing up, and they're not just showing up. I mean, they're very, very supportive. I watched, I think, Dateline and 2020 interviews with them, the brother, the mother, like the entire family, and they're going on the record to say that Kouri was the perfect wife, that they were the perfect couple, that they were this happy family. But again, all the signs are pointing to a very different story. And so of the family, do you think they'll be calling various family members as witnesses, or do you think any of that plays a role?
Well, I mean, her mother is is absolutely a witness, right? Like she was there the night the 911 was called. I don't know if the prosecution or the defense would call her, but she certainly is involved. I mean, she's throughout the entire, arrest charges, the initial arrest charges, and to why they made the charges. So I think she'd have to be. And then, of course, Kouri's brother is also involved because of the infamous now walk the dog letter. The letter.
Yeah. So can you explain? Yeah. Can you explain that? A couple of people were in chat talking about that.
Yes. Yes. So the walk the dog letter is essentially Kouri Richins writing a letter in court saying, this is what needs to happen. My brother Ronnie needs to say A, B, C, and D in court. I mean, that's how you can pull it up and find it and read it. And it does seem like this is what he needs to testify to, my brother, that he needs to testify that, Eric, it wasn't, did have a drug problem, that he tried to help. I mean, all of these sorts of things that are going to give her a compelling defense. But she puts at the top of it, please walk the dog. And so her mother's visiting her in jail and they're talking and she holds the letter up. I mean, nobody can see what it says, but she holds it up. But at the front, it's circled again, please walk the dog. So is she holding it up to say, hey, mom, yo, walk the dog? Or is she holding it up so her mother can say, look, you got to get Ronnie to say this? It was found in a manila folder labeled client attorney privilege, which, is also compelling. And now it's public. That's a problem with the letter is the defense is going to argue like this was attorney client privilege. But since that time, Kouri has come forward to talk about it now and to give her side of it all. So, already we have like, is this attorney-client privilege? Is this not? Was she trying to tell her mom to walk the dog? Was she trying to tell her mom to get her brother to lie on the stand? Like all the speculation. Well, Kouri's come out and Kouri's now stating, no. This is just a part of a novel that I'm writing behind bars, everyone. Everybody has it wrong. I'm writing a novel behind bars. This is the beginning of it. So if a grief book wasn't enough, which by the way, didn't she even have a ghostwriter for that one?
Yeah.
But if the grief yeah, it was a pretty simple book. I'm like, if she couldn't write that one and she had to get a ghostwriter for that one, I don't know how she's writing a novel behind bars. But according to Kouri, we all have it wrong and we need to just shut all speculation off because what she was actually doing was writing penning a novel, which is also, I just want to throw this out too. That's exactly what Chad Daybell said about the love story or Chad Daybell's attorney said, I should say, about the love story that he wrote Lori with this perfect, condensed version of falling in love with Lori and everything that happened and every place they were. I mean, it was like this perfect summary of everything that happened leading up to their horrendous crimes. And Chad's attorney also stated in court, well, no, he's an author and this was just a book he was writing, a fictional book. Kouri's sort of taking the same route there. But again, going back to why I brought it up, she held it up for her mother. So her mother, once again, they're very involved. I don't know if it's enmeshed, if they love each other or they're meshed involved, but there they are. She's writing about what her brother should say and having her mother look at it.
And the fact that she wrote, or the fact that she said, I'm writing a book as an excuse, thinking like, hey guys, it's okay. Like you'd think that's the last excuse you want to use after everyone is now scrutinizing you for the first book that you wrote.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. A question here from La Mesa, friend of the show. Lauren, when reading Kouri's text, I do not get the sense she was actually into the guy that she was cheating with. How do you feel? Language doesn't suggest that I feel he would have been a fall guy. And do you know anything, Lauren, about like the timeline of this? Like, were they dating for a long or dating, hooking up?
Yeah,
cheating?
whatever they were doing. They were dating for a long time. This is super compelling though. I think, thank you, Lamisa. I don't know. And it never even occurred to me that like maybe she was attempting to get him to be a fall guy, although you're saying it doesn't suggest that he was. They were dating for a while, but I will say he was certainly a side guy because some of the texts, you're right, Lamisa, some of the texts actually state she's like, oh, woe was me. Like, thanks for waiting. I just don't know if I can leave my family. And she writes something kind of flowery and romantic to him and sad. And his response is, I thought you were getting a divorce. Just like he's like getting kind of disenchanted. And then she writes something back. I know, but can you wait? I don't want you to wait for me. I don't want you to wait forever for me because I don't know when it'll be and I don't want to hurt my kids. So it certainly wasn't the most, yeah, you're right. Like he was certainly getting impatient, but interesting if we go further with that text thread, that very specific conversation, that's when she actually says to him, look, give me until Friday. And then by Friday, Eric's dead. So I don't know. Was she afraid of losing him? Did she like the attention? I mean, she certainly, she gives a compelling motive for this is part of the reason she killed Eric, but who knows? She was also having a hard time leaving her family.
And Kathy here has a super chat saying, I'm not so sure it's unusual that families showing up, putting myself in their shoes. I don't think I could ever wrap my head around a member of my family doing something like that, which I get. You never know how you feel about a situation until all of a sudden it's your family. And obviously, if it was a family member, I'd probably show up to support or, there's only so much you can do, obviously, but if you think they're innocent, I guess it makes sense. It's just interesting, though. I do feel like in most of the cases, there are some family members, but usually there's not such a big show of support.
I agree. Like everybody coming to everything. And it's one thing attending the trial. It's a whole other, attending every
single
hearing. And just as a group. And look, I admire it. Like Kouri has support. That I think everyone should have support, defendant or, or victim. But yeah, she certainly has it, and it's not always common with the defendant.
And shout out to Defense Diaries podcast. Hi, Bob. Hi, Allie.
Hey, Bob.
He says, love seeing Joel's much better half managing the ship. SOS, I can't even pull up the comments. I'm so sloppy. Don't tell Joel. Luckily, he's probably not listening because I gave him and Cohen some homework on the ride up. So they're driving to Tallahassee right now. But thank you, Bob and Allie. We love you guys back. This is from Christy Wolf, and it says, is Eric's family able to see his sons while Kouri is in jail until the court trial?
Yes. Yes. Okay. They are with the Richins, and they are able to be with the children. They are in good hands. And the Richins family is a very large extended family. It's actually, they're very prominent in the area. They were ranchers that actually founded this area in Camas, Utah. A lot of their names are on a lot of the buildings. They are a well-known ranching family in
I didn't realize that.
Camas area. Yes.
Oh, interesting.
And
okay.
Yeah, they go way back in the area. And so they are a very tight-knit family from that area, and they are giving those children a lot of love and support, but it is absolutely heartbreaking. I can't imagine these type of cases. I think are most heart-wrenching when I just realize children are involved, similar, to the Adelsons and the Shanna Gardner case, two cases you follow. Like, I just, it's one thing for adults to be terrible to each other, and it's a whole other for adults to be terrible to each other when there are children that are affected. So, yes.
Well, and that's the thing. In these situations, like by taking out your husband, the father of your children, like you're leaving your children without a father. And maybe these people are just so confident and they really think they're not going to get caught. But there's obviously a chance. And guess what? It usually happens at some point. And so now these people are leaving their kids with absolutely no one. And that's what kills me in all of these cases. You're right, Lauren, is now these 3 little kids that looked adorable in their photos. We blocked out their faces, but I saw some online. It's like, they don't deserve this. Like, they're just kids. Like, they didn't want any of this to happen. And now they will be completely affected. And they're old enough to understand what's going on. When their dad died, when Eric Richins was killed, they were, I believe, 5, 8, and 9, which is my kids' ages. And let me tell you, my 5-year-old knows everything about everything.
Yes.
So it's not like these kids don't know what happened and don't understand. They do. They really do. And so to grow up understanding the possibility that it was your mom that did this to your dad, and understanding or trying to understand why and how, that's awful.
It is awful. It is. And it is. And then it goes back to just how angry actually the book that she wrote makes me. So again, it's not the issue. I think I just want to like explain. It's not the issue that we can't share with our children that, someone that they love passes away and that they might be able to be a guardian angel. My son lost his grandmother and, you can feel her presence or through memories. But I can't imagine the grief of these boys. And so the fact that she's getting some ghostwriter to write some book and say, look, he's always here. Don't worry about it. Let's move on. And then she goes, just coming back to what you said, that she's going on this news program and saying, I was just trying to help them, kind of move on is what she's saying. You don't move on when your dad dies, when your dad isn't there at soccer practices. It's not so simple. Also makes me angry that she thought that this could, these people, they think, okay, well, they're going to grieve for a little bit and then all will be well and we'll move on. No, they will never, ever, ever be okay. And this will follow them into adulthood. This trauma that they had forever. It's just heartbreaking that people do this to parents. And I want to bring up to one other thing though. When it comes to this case, I think the prenup is going to be a big thing because I think it'll be good evidence for the defense because this whole idea that like, why would she do this? Or
No, just to confirm, because I was reading about it, but the articles I read didn't give, oops, sorry, I just choked myself. The articles I read didn't give that much detail. So in the prenup, was she supposed to, I guess what was included in the prenup, and then the insurance is obviously outside of the prenup because then he changed it to his sister, correct?
Correct. The prenup, the trust was in the prenup.
Okay.
So the prenup was about the trust. And again, this family had some money. He had been divorced before. And so it was actually his mother that really wanted to bring it forward. And so I just think it gives evidence to, or motive, I guess we could say, to why she wouldn't want to get a divorce, because it only works. She was allowed his trust if she remained married to him. She didn't know that he had changed a lot of his trust and beneficiaries to his life insurance. And that's also why she was getting additional life insurance policies, outside of the trust. I think she was nervous, but if something happened to him while they were married, she would still be given the trust. But if they divorced and they had 50-50 custody even, she still would not be given a part of his trust. So that will also be evidence of motive, I think.
Yeah, and Angelina is saying, I use books all the time with my kids, but the situation as a whole is weird. Absolutely. And I think it's different to use a book. I mean, I use some books. Honestly, I usually just like over communicate with my kids instead of turning to a book just because I like to address things. And I like to take like a more aggressive approach about handling, issues or what we're feeling or things like that with my kids. But I do know that books can be very, very, very helpful. And it takes some of the pressure off when you're a parent and you can turn to a book to discuss sensitive subjects, which are not easy to discuss. But I do think this is a very, very different situation. And again, yes. Even in the book, I don't ever think that she talks about, like, I want to pull this up really quickly. In the book, she does include this family photo of them and she writes out their names. She writes the dedication, but it very much is like father with kids, not like the full family. So right. That was also very weird to me in like this whole book situation, is that she doesn't address that there is a mom there,
right? Even
though their dad suddenly is not there. So that was interesting for me.
Right. And I also want to say the fact that she says on that program, I looked and looked for a book and there just wasn't anything. You're a mother. I'm a mother. How many books are written on grief? You couldn't find one book that actually addressed the concerns of your sons. It also makes me think that she had an ulterior motive. She just needed that picture right there. Like, no, we're all still together, moving on. So, and Laura Ferris is in chat. I just noticed, making a quick correction. She stated to me that the trust, or stated to us, to the chat, that the trust was actually created after the forged mortgage. It was the business that she got in the prenup. So just switch what I said from trust to business.
And Lauren, I just want to address this, and not that I'm not trying to blame the victim in any way here, but I know that you and your husband, Dr. John, have discussed many cases and many motives and many situations, and you've discussed this case. And so, with you and your husband talking about this case on your channel, have you guys addressed the fact that he did feel like she was out to get him? He did think that there was some kind of incident, and yet he sort of ignored it. Or not ignored it, because I think he did mention it to people, but he sort of just tried to deal with it.
Yeah, I mean, I think. Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, yeah, I was just gonna say, what are your thoughts on that? And obviously, people do that even with divorce. Things happen, or you're upset about stuff, but because you have a family, you try to make things work. So, what was your take and Dr. John's take on this?
It's so eerie, right? What if you hear all these things, what should he have done too? I think about that he was feeling like he might have been poisoned by his wife. You hear these things all the time. I mean, he did the right thing. He told his friends and family. How do you go and get charges for that, right? And he's sharing custody with his kids, and he's thinking, and he might have even been thinking he was crazy, but look, if something happens to me, he's telling his business partner, look into my wife. I think she might be trying to poison me. Charles Vallow did the same thing too. He told his attorneys, if something happens to me, it's Lori and Alex. I can't imagine the fear in people when they're saying things like that to people, but I don't know if there's anything else they can actually do
legally. Yeah.
Legally, I don't think there's anything they can do, but they, he did the right thing sharing that'll come up in court. It's part of evidence, but my gosh, and to change to build the trust and put the business in the trust and all of that, I just, it is a frightening thing when you hear those stories after a crime that they knew or they had an inkling. I also, gosh, and also, how do you do that? It would be one thing if they were fighting over custody. Well, they weren't. They were still married, first off, but it seems like even if they were getting divorced, custody would have been 50-50, things like that, where in the Shanna Gardner case, and Adelson case, both of them, it is about custody. I think you're the Adelson case much better than I do, but it seems like the motive was custody, right?
Yeah, that's custody and control, for sure. Absolutely.
Control.
That was the root of everything. That's
I think that's the same with the Gardner. I think that's the exact same with Gardner, both Florida cases. My goodness. And in this case,
a wild place.
Yeah, in this case, I think it's money and sex, really. So I think it's different. I mean, I guess there's that parallel of control, but not as much control. I mean, yeah, she wanted control, but I think it was just trying to get rid of the debt and move on a different life without him, getting rid of him. So a little bit of a different motive.
I just want to put this up here and say thank you to Elle for gifting one Surviving the Survivor membership. We appreciate you. And thank you to Cheryl and Black Widor and A Gilk 9. Thank you, everyone. Lauren, unless you have, oh wait, you know what? Let me get these two questions and then we'll wrap it up, if that's okay. Do you have five more minutes?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Let me pull this up here. Okay, well, this is more rhetorical. But COE and Lauren, why do you think that people think murder is the only option? This seems to be the case so often.
I don't know. And again, I go back to this text she sent the man she was having an affair with, where she said, "I just want to be with you, cuddle with you, and watch a murder documentary with you." And I think many of us watch murder documentaries, right? So I just, the irony is not lost on me that when I watch those, I'm thinking what that question was. I think to myself, why do people think that murder is an option? Right? We've all watched murder documentaries. When I watch them, I'm like, how could people do this? It's trying to process the why done it, not the who done it for me, but I'm like, why? Why could anyone ever get to a place where they think that that is the answer? And yet here is Kouri Richins probably watching the same murder documentaries we've all watched perhaps, it's alleged, perhaps wondering how to get away with it, how to get away with murder. Why do people think it's an option? I have no idea, but clearly she didn't want Eric in her life. She wanted to not have to pay him back millions of dollars on the fraud, and she wanted to be with the maintenance man, the handyman. It's I think that's actually, I have to say, I think that's essentially why we started our channel, is to answer that question. We can always figure out the who done it, but the why done it is, like, to me, the eternal question. Why? In all of my life, I have never, ever, ever thought, oh, an answer might be hurting someone or even wanting to kill someone. And yet every day there are people that do that. The why is the eternal answer. I don't know.
It's funny because the other day we were out to dinner. Joel and I were out to dinner with a couple of couples, and we were just talking about stuff, and they were some of them were talking about how they never curse, and then they have resentment, and I said, I'm like, you know what, I'm known to have a mouth on me when I'm not on camera.
No.
And I say some wild things. But I was telling them, I'm like, you know what, for me, I'm like, I get it all out. I say it all to Joel. I say like 15 F words. And then like 3 minutes later, like, I'm fine. I'm like, Joel, kids, dogs, like, let's go to the park. I feel good. I let it all out. And honestly, it's like, I don't understand any of this, because I feel like that would just never be a thought that crossed my mind, no matter how angry I am. But again, I'm like, you know what? In my moments, like, I let it out, I say it, and I don't know. These people, they're obviously not normal. It doesn't make sense. It's not reasonable in any way. And again, if anything, I feel like what grounds me in my relationship and in my family is my 3 kids. Like, even if, like, it's normal. Like a perfect normal family has their moments. I mean, you're going to get annoyed with someone that you spend every single minute with. I mean, I adore my kids, and I feel the same way about my kids sometimes.
Right,
Yeah, exactly.
I
But
always
I
say
feel like it's
the word
normal.
mother is the sweetest word, or like the one that just sends like, oh, okay, go ahead. Yeah. But anyway, sorry. Yes.
No, but yeah. And, you're going to feel a lot of things, and that just means that you're human. You feel that with anyone and everyone. But I think, yeah, like, what grounds me is what scares me and really takes me back in these cases is that, yeah, like, I always think about my kids. Even when I'm like annoyed and want to say something, I'm like, all right, but my kids are here. So, like, let's just like chill out and relax. And yeah, and these people do it for their kids, whatever that means. And it's very interesting.
Yeah, I agree. Well said. Well said. I know. This is where, you and Joel need to come over, and we needed to have a table conversation at our house with Dr. John, my husband. I call him Dr. John.
I call him Dr. John too.
Well, I know. People are like, do you?
I'm like, but he's your husband. Yeah.
It was Keith Morrison that finally interrupted me. He asked me, because I kept saying Dr. John. He's like, do you call him that at home? And I'm like, no, no. But I do, on here. But right, because I think the why done it for me it's just. I think that's the question most of us ask every time a crime is committed, unless you're Kouri Richins or someone like him. Allegedly, you might be asking how to get away with it. I don't know.
The chat is saying they call your husband Dr. Babe.
They do, because I always call him Babe, and then someone said, "Well, how about Dr. Babe?" And so now it's yes, exactly, Dr. Babe. So,
very cute, very
and
cute.
they do it because it embarrasses him, and he's sheepish, and so then when you've got a bunch of people calling him Dr. Babe, you feel so much more comfortable. No, just kidding.
I love that. Well, now I will go in chats and say hi to Dr. Babe. Shout out to my mom who's in the chat. Thank you, Mom. She's watching while working.
Hi, Co's mom.
All right. Well, thank you to everyone for being here. Lauren, I think unless you have anything else to say, I think we covered a lot here. There is going to be a hearing. Is it next week? No, in 2 weeks.
I don't know.
Is there another hearing?
What? I have a lot of strengths, but keeping track of hearings is not one of them.
I know. I have a calendar that Joel always yells about. because I'm like, I put things and then I'm like canceling it because it got moved. It's complicated. The true crime calendar is very complicated. If anyone wants to volunteer to help us, let us know. But I do think they have a hearing coming up at some point. And then the trial was set for April 28th.
Yeah.
So obviously those things change, but I did want to remind everyone the trial is set then. And then I do also want to touch back on this here for those that are tuning in to our Donna Adelson trial. I just want to let you guys know that jury selection begins tomorrow. There are some interesting updates. We are hearing that the pool camera may not be recording jury selection. So I am working on trying to confirm that. I spent all morning speaking to a lot of different local news affiliates about their coverage and how to collaborate. So I'm going to keep you guys updated. But even if there is not jury selection that's recorded and being live streamed, we are still going to be live tomorrow at lunchtime with Joel, who is there in Tallahassee. And he'll be bringing you all the updates if we do not have the live stream. If we do have the live stream, then we'll have that. Then we'll do a live at lunch. Then we'll do the evening afternoon session, and then we'll have the best guess analysis show. So every day, regardless of what's going on, we are going to explain what our plan is in the community tab. And by we, I mean me. So I'll be keeping you guys updated. If you need anything, please let me know. Joel is driving up to Tallahassee right now with Steve Cohen. So as soon as they get there, I'm sure they'll update me. And again, I just wanted to say thank you to everyone. Thank you to Space Coast. Thank you to all of our amazing mods. Thank you to all of the gems, the alibiers, and of course, STS Nation. And she's not here, but a big thanks to Gigi. She's really amazing. If you don't know Gigi, you should check her out. She is Pretty Lies and Alibis on YouTube. She's also a really big advocate in the community. She does a lot of great work helping women who are fighting domestic violence. So she does a lot of great work off camera. And same with Lauren. Lauren has Hidden True Crime with her husband, Dr. John, Dr. Babe. But aside from doing all of their great work on camera, so many of us are involved in helping with things behind the scenes. So I do want to say thank you to Lauren and to your husband, Dr. John, because I do watch you guys and you do an amazing job. And to Gigi, who is not here as well.
Thank you.
So
Thank you.
All right,
Cal.
Lauren, anything
We
else?
appreciate you. No, that's it. Thank you. We appreciate you and your hard work too. So thank you. You're often behind the scenes busy thanking everybody else. So thank you.
Thank you, Lauren. We appreciate you. And I'll text you because I want to talk to you about some other stuff, but I'll text you.
Sounds good.
All right.
You can use your language that you don't use.
I will. Don't tell anyone.
Okay.
All right. Bye, everyone. Let
We'll
me
see ya.
remember to end this because Joel had a hot mic moment last week.
Oh, I
So-
want to go find it now. Or is it gone?
No, we left it up. It was like maybe 10 seconds, but I was like, oh my goodness. I'm like, of course Joel is going to do this. It was him and another guest. And I was like, oh, great. So if you haven't seen that, go check that out. All right. I'm going to end the show now. Thanks so much, Lauren.
We'll see you.
All
Bye-bye.
right, bye, everyone.